Okay, everyone. I want to go ahead and get started for the people here we have in our attendees room. I am Lotus Lain. I'm the adult industry advocate for Free Speech Coalition. I'm a performer, producer, advocate, and lover of all things sexual and porn related. So, no, I'm here with my lovely panelists, and we're going to talk about the benefits of maintaining healthy outside relationships outside of the industry and how that can contribute to our overall better mental health. We do have some other panelists that are just going to be running a little bit late, so no worries there. They'll join us when they can, but I will go ahead and let Goddess Charlie Cake introduce themselves.
Oh, yay, I'm going first. All right. So I am Goddess Charlie Cake. I have been a professional dominatrix for going on 9 years now. I have been in the digital realm for over 3 years now. I stream mainly on Streamate, and that is my home. I love it there. I don't know what else you guys want to know about me. I'm 28 years old, and I live in Arizona.
Oh, wonderful facts. Okay, and next we have Sasha Raee. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sasha Raee. I've been in the industry for 11 years now. I am a cosplayer, a live streamer, content creator, admin, anything sex related. I have my hands some way, somehow tangled in there. I'm originally from California, and now I live in Chicago.
Sweet. And then Miss Rina Ellis, please introduce yourself.
Sorry, had to unmute. Hey, everybody. I'm Rina Ellis. I've been in the industry for 6 years. I started off doing mainstream porn up until 2018 and took a break for a couple years. And then now I'm back in as a content creator. I stream occasionally on Streamate. It's been the best platform for me so far. And I live in New York, but I'm currently in Miami visiting the family, but I live in New York. And yeah, that sums it up.
Sweet, sweet. Okay, well, thank you, lovelies, for introducing yourself. I'm going to go ahead and start asking some questions about how you maintain these outside relationships. Why do we think that there's a benefit there? And real quick, I just want to address a comment in the comment box from Mark Kearns. It says, not sure if we'll be covering this, but he suggests that we tell adult performers to do good by getting your kind of backstory ready for when you do retire or go back home to your community that you come from, even if it's not LA, probably especially if it's not LA, because it is definitely harder to go back to non-metropolitan communities with previous sex work, just because he's saying it may be difficult to tell mainstream friends and acquaintances about sex on camera life. It's a good tip. I mean, Mark's been in the industry 20 years. He may know a little bit about what he's talking about. But with that in mind, let's go into it. How many of you have industry best friends or outside best friends? And, you know, would you say your industry best friends understand you more, or your outside best friends still know you in your heart? Like, whoever wants to start first.
I can start.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it changed over the years. I think in the beginning, I was kind of relying more on people within the industry. I felt like I didn't have the best support network in the beginning. In my personal life, I think the relationships in my personal life kind of struggled more. And I felt like within the industry, like there was just like a common understanding that alone, you know, we're doing a job that like a lot of people don't really understand or approve of. I think now the last few years, like I've, you know, I'm have a great support network outside of the industry now. And I think it's important to have both, because you don't want to be in the world of your work, no matter what work you do. I think it's really important to have a balance. And I think when I lived in LA, that was kind of hard not like to kind of get out of that. Like you were kind of in a little bit of an industry bubble. At least that was my experience. So I think it's really important to have a balance.
Very, very cool to hear that you have a nice support system now. I'm happy for that for you.
Thank you.
Sasha or Charlie, did you have anything to contribute? Do you have an industry bestie and an outside bestie, or is it just like one and the same?
Yeah. So I kind of have both. Um, Within the industry for me, since I've been in it for so long, I started when I was, barely legal, 18, 19 years old. And I wanted to have friends so badly within the industry that I kind of found myself clinging along to whoever like said hi to me and was like, "Oh, hi." And I was like, "Oh, that's my bestie." No. So as I kind of got older a little bit more and I kind of learned to understand that not everyone is as nice as you might think they might be or have the greatest intentions, I kind of became more closed off, which is you would think would be the opposite. But I'm more closed off when I meet people in the industry just because you just don't know someone's true intentions. And I've been burned a lot by people that I have, said were my best friend. And I always thought it was a real relationship, but it would turn out that it really wasn't. Um, and I have great friends, don't get me wrong. I definitely have some great friends that I know if I needed them, they'd be there for me in a heartbeat. In my personal life, there is my two besties. I know me as Sasha. They know what I do. They know all the conventions I go to. They're probably the only two people that truly know the real me and then the persona me. And I think it helps me navigate within when I'm not online or having to be on so much because I can talk to them about problems that I'm having or like nominations I might be up for or just something exciting, but then also can talk to them about personal relationships that I might have and not feel I have to be so cautious of what I'm saying to who I'm saying. So I
Yeah.
think it's good to have both because if you don't, sometimes I think you might drive yourself a little crazy because you're always on and you're always trying to think of what to say when who you're around, and that's not always healthy.
Yeah, I'm glad you're mentioning that because especially in our work, our industry, people, it's very, insular. People talk a lot. It's very based on relationships. And if you say something maybe the wrong way or someone takes you the wrong way, then rumors can get spread and that gets hard on you. So you do have to have that outlet where you can just be free and talk about the things that you want to get off your chest. Hey, cool.
100%.
We just got one of our panelists joining us. Cool. Let her get settled. While Siri gets settled, real quick, Charlie, did you want to answer that? If you have an industry bestie or an outside bestie, one in the same?
Yeah, well, I did love what Sasha said because I have also been in the industry since I was like 18, 19. And for a couple years, I like couldn't really tell anyone about my work. Even like my really close kink friends, like my little wolf pack that I had back in Philly, they would be like, you can tell us about work stuff, but you can't share it with the general community because of the whole lifestyle versus professional thing. And that was like kind of weird. So I was definitely longing for a really long time for like industry friends. Like I know a lot of local people in terms of digitally or like secondhandedly. Like I knew someone who knew someone. I was like, oh, they kind of do what I did, but I didn't really have many industry friends for a good like 5-6 years. Besides maybe like 3 or 4 girls that I would like work with sometimes, but other than that, like no connections. So moving out to the West Coast and working a lot more on the internet, I definitely have a couple like industry besties now. We always find time to like catch up with each other. We'll do like Zoom sessions and just kind of like vent, whether it be about work or not, or just to allow space for ourselves to kind of like decompress.
Yeah.
But I do, have besties outside of the industry, and I'm polyamorous. I have several partners, and at this point, all of my partners are outside of the industry. And it's nice to have that safe space where they know what I do, they know my persona, they know how my persona is connected to my true personality, they understand the differentiation, and I can again share those exciting things about nominations or something cool I get to speak on or whatever. So I do enjoy the balance, but I will say I probably have less non-industry friends, but they're closer relationships. I feel like I have more industry acquaintances. and fewer besties in that department.
That makes sense. Yeah, especially saying that you went 5-6 years without establishing any true bonded friendships in the industries. That like to me shows how strong you are, because so many people say they can't get through this industry without having like friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just had like the 2-3 people that I would, work with here and there, but otherwise.
Yeah, it was those personal relationships that were maintaining you, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Miss Siri, we're so happy that you're able to join us. If you could unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hey, everyone. Sorry I'm late. Car stuff going on. Got held up a little bit, but happy to be here. Hi, I'm Siri Dahl. I guess you could call me a veteran performer. I first started performing in 2012, was active till 2015. Then I took a 5-year break, and now I've been back since 2020. I used to live in LA for a time, but for the last like 6, almost 7 years now, I've lived in Louisville, Kentucky, and I travel out to LA for studio shoots. So I'm kind of all over the place, always traveling.
Yeah, I see that. That's awesome though. You have one of those unique performer experiences where you don't live in the hubs, you travel out to them. So that's cool. One of the things I was just asking them about is, do you have an industry bestie and an outside bestie, or are they like one and the same?
There's definitely some crossover. Like my industry besties are people that I would definitely hang out with all the time if they didn't live in LA. But it's great because I have like roommates in LA that I go like live with once a month when I am out there for work. And then when I come home, I definitely have like a home base. I've been here for a couple years. So my partner lives here. I have very close friends here in Kentucky that I maintain friendships with. So it feels very balanced, and it's kind of funny to me that I actually have much closer industry relationships and friendships now when I don't even live in LA than I did in the 3 years that I used to live in LA.
But I feel like that is interesting, because I feel like that even like highlights even more who's the real friends and what the real friendships are, because they're willing to still keep in touch and communicate, knowing that they can't just go and hang out or party with you all the time. That's really cool, especially hearing that you live in like you said, Louisville, Kentucky. That's like out there, not in the central hub of where we do our adult industry stuff. But you're able to have really healthy personal relationships. I know a lot of people think maybe if they live in isolated communities, they're like, oh, I must keep to myself. I absolutely cannot tell anyone. And that's good to hear that you can have those friendships, and they are supportive as well. Speaking of supportive, how outstanding were those outside relationships about your work and the unique stressors? Was it something that was like immediately they got it, or did you have to kind of like repeatedly emphasize the difference in what we go through to people to kind of like, oh, okay, now I see your work as work, or understand what you go through?
Yeah, I will say that so civilian friendships, they can be challenging. I'm very fortunate that I've kind of figured out who my sort of chosen family is, that, it's a great group of people that I'm very close with. And we all they don't necessarily understand everything about my work in adult. And none of my civilian friends have ever done sex work. I don't think any of them would ever plan on doing it necessarily either. So there is, for a lot of them, at least a disconnect in understanding the reality of what it's like, but there's never any judgment. It's just more coming from they ask me questions all the time because they want to understand better what I do. And it leads to some really great conversations where I get to kind of, educate some of my own friends on the stigma that we face, some of the anti-porn stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it feels very it feels really good to be able to do that, to be in that position. And also it's comforting in a way, because when I was newer in the industry and used to live in LA, because even though LA is way more of a generally liberal place than Kentucky is, I was way more secretive about letting people I just met or like acquaintances who weren't industry people know what I did for a living. And now I'm not like, you know, I don't tell everyone. It's not like I like go to the doctor and I'm like, blah, 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 but like, I don't like go out of my way to hide it.
Yeah.
And that feels good. And it actually like,
I think that is because you have that good support system with your friends already. So you kind of feel more confident in knowing that you can disclose that when you want.
Yes, 100%. And I do also think that for me, I feel like, you know, because I did like take a 5-year break from the industry, a lot of things changed in the 5 years that I was gone. Yeah. And I mean, I do think that it's kind of weird to say this because we are in this really kind of terrible time of like a lot of efforts to censor and criminalize sex workers, but also that's happening on like a political cultural battle scale. On a day-to-day like meeting people scale, most people even in this city that I meet are like if I tell people that I do OnlyFans content, 99% of the time the response is like, oh my god, that's so cool, and they know that means porn.
I know what you're saying. Like even you'd be surprised, some people's grandparents and stuff, they're like, yeah, what's wrong with that? So it's more of like you said, the political battles that we deal with that make it seem like there's a negative attitude towards sex work, but on the day-to-day ground level with people, it does not seem so as much. So glad you said that. Anyone else? Rina.
Kind of going off what Siri was saying, it was more of like with people like civilian friends, it's similar how it was like they just didn't understand it. It wasn't necessarily like they judged you. If they were to do that, you wouldn't be my friend, first of all. But like, but like if it was just more like trying to understand. But the issues I kind of faced was like they didn't like questions that you wouldn't ask in any other job. They feel comfortable asking like, how much do you get paid? Or stuff like that, like sensitive subjects where you might not ask someone that if it was like they were working for a bank. They felt like, oh, you should like, how does that work? Like, and it's okay to ask questions, but I do think there's an element of like, oh, it's not really work. Because a lot of people, especially ignorant people, they like don't get that it's work. They're like, I'm sure we've all gotten it. Go get a job.
How do you even make money from this?
Get a job, get a real job. Well, we're paying our taxes, so it's a pretty fucking real job. I don't know. Like, I just like I think it's hard for people to kind of like take away, like separate the two. Like we're still kind of in a society where it's like, you have sex with someone you love and have the best romantic connection with. And that's not always the case. You don't always have the best sexual chemistry with someone like I mean, at least for me, everybody's different, but I think we can all say that, you know, you have to be able to separate the two. And I think that's very hard for civilians to kind of wrap their head around.
The separation of sex and emotions.
Right.
And like you must like someone or be into them if you're willing to have sex with them. And for us, we're like, no, we're into that paycheck.
Or you do that off camera, like you're always having orgies if you're not shooting porn. And it's like, that's not always the case. Everybody is different. And I think that's what they think, like we're all the same. And that kind of get a little bit frustrating.
I hear you. Yes, Charlie.
Yeah. I was gonna say, to piggyback off of that, like sometimes I just enjoy giving people chaotic answers. Like when people ask like, how much do you make? I'm like, well, sometimes in an hour I can make rent, and sometimes in 5 hours I can make $50. And I like to make jokes about like, you know, well, if you're gonna do sex work, you have to think, what would you do for free anyways? And people are like, what do you mean? And I'm like, again, sometimes you can work 5 hours and make $50.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have an hour and you're like, I'm done for the week. Like, I'm literally done. So I don't know. I kind of like to be a little cheeky about it because it's kind of like, again, you know, you wouldn't ask this to your barber. You wouldn't ask this to a hairstylist. You wouldn't ask this to someone who works at a bank or, you know, a therapist or something. And the same thing with like, sometimes I'm really picky about who I tell the words professional dominatrix to, because I feel like people often just like throw things, like they just attach things to that. And it's like, you don't exactly know like my job description. Like I know doms that do this and don't do this, or they work in this medium but they have these specialty. Like it's like
some doms don't even touch their clients, you know. So
right, and it's like, you know, if you are going to be around, you'll understand what I mean eventually. I'm not here to like explain myself. Like I don't need to give you like my worksheet of like my job description and my daily, monthly, weekly like roles that I take on. I'm like, we're all admin people, we're all our own marketing people, we're all like this, that, the other thing. And a lot of people don't see that other side of it. Like you were saying, you know, it's not a job. Well, we pay a lot of taxes. It's definitely a job. And just because we enjoy what we do doesn't mean it doesn't feel like work a lot of the time. Like same with the fact that I said, well, what would you do for free? Okay, then charge for it. But if you wouldn't do it for free, maybe don't charge.
Yeah, I really like that as a question to pose to people, because I think oftentimes they think we're just willing to do whatever. And I really
well, it's like how many times do you show your boobs for $2 and how many times do you show your boobs
or just
for
like
500?
Like, you know. I feel like it's a wonderful question. Yeah. Sasha, did you have some input here?
Yeah. So I think for me, I'm having these conversations just really makes me realize how fortunate I am for like my civilian friends, because they are very open-minded, so they are able to like really understand what I do. I've also been a very animated, always willing to try anything once type of person, so they weren't really surprised when I told them that I had ventured from go-go dancing into like webcam modeling. They were just like, "Oh, okay, like yeah, you'd be great at it. Like I can see that. Like you love to talk, you love to entertain. Why not make a bag?" So it was very easy for me to kind of express to them. But I think what helped me was that I did grow up, like I started go-go dancing. I was very much the guy that I was dating, he owned a nightclub. So I was kind of always in that field. So when I made the transition, it was just kind of like, and in my real life, I'm bisexual. So I'm adventurous. So it wasn't really, I guess, too surprising, which kind of made me feel a little bit like some type of way at first. Cause I was like, well, what do you mean this isn't surprising?
Yeah, everybody expects
yeah.
the nightclub owner.
Yeah, literally. They're like, well, but I do have to explain, like they had to learn that it's more than just it's fun, yes, but in order to be successful, you have to treat it like a real 9 to 5. I call it 24/7, 365 job. Yeah. Because like Charlie was saying, you do your own marketing, you do your own, well, at least in my situation, I do all my own marketing, I do all my own admin, I do my own photography, I do my own editing, I do my own filmography. It's like every single thing I do by myself. I've never had a team, and I currently don't have a team. So, and even like going to Miami for Xfits, my friend was like, "Oh, you're about to have a ball. You're going to Miami." I was like, "Yeah, but it's for work. Like, you don't understand. Like, it's back to back. Like, there's so much crammed into 3 days. Like, I'm not going to Miami. I'm going to work." And so explaining the difference sometimes to them, because TV and online entertainment can kind of create this vision, an exaggerated vision of what they think the industry looks like on a daily basis, when that's not how it is every day. Of course, there's glimpses, like, yes, we do have some parties, we can't have fun, but that's not the everyday lifestyle. And I feel like TV and movies especially can always exaggerate it more. And I'm like, they go, "Sasha, is that how it really is?" I'm like, that's a little OD, but sometimes, but not all the time.
Right? That's so true. I feel like Sultry Miss M brought up a really great point in the comments. It goes, they often think, they probably meaning civilians, outside friends, often think that we have no boundaries. But in reality, we are often the best at understanding and holding boundaries. And that is so true. One of the things that dawned on me recently was that strippers are some of the first people to work and navigate boundaries on a one-to-one basis in real life. When they go in that champagne room, the VIP room, telling the client they can't do this or whatever, maintain their distance. That's something that people don't really realize, is that we've been well versed in this since the beginning. So speaking of boundaries, how do you kind of maintain those boundaries in conversations with friends when they go there, when they ask awkward questions, or maybe bring people around and maybe disclose something before you're ready to talk about it? Like, how do you kind of maintain those boundaries with those outside friends when you're like, hey, do not say my stage name to this person I just met, or whatever it is? How do you kind of navigate those things? Or is it just like cut them off right away?
I've been doxxed more than once. I've been doxxed by someone that I have let into my home, my space. Someone that I knew from like the club industry days. They knew the guy I was with. Like they knew my name, his name, address, like everything. Straight up just doxed me. At that moment, I realized that it's the internet. If you want to find, I have businesses. So if you want to find me, it's nothing but a Google search. You see my name, you see the business. As much as I try to conceal it as much as I can, I'm at a point now, I just turned 30, and I truly do not care who knows and who doesn't know. I'm not going to just be like, oh, hi, like I'm Sasha Raee and I do this. But if it comes up, or if you ask me, I'm not at a point anymore. Everyone in my life knows. So I'm not trying to hide. I'm not trying to conceal about it. I communicate. I have no filter, as some people can say, when it comes to expressing how I feel. So my home is my sanctuary. It's my peace. It's my safety net. It's where you can see my stage name all over. You see things that I've won. And then you also see the real me as well. So I don't let just any and everybody in my house for that exact reason, because for one, bad energy. I don't know who you be around, who you be with. I don't need that coming into my house. And two, there's just too much that can get out that I necessarily wouldn't want out. So I just use my mouth. And if you can't respect those boundaries, then like I said, life is going by too fast. I will cut you off in a heartbeat and not look back. So I'm kind of mean, I guess, when it comes to boundaries. But I've had my boundaries overstepped so many times being in this industry for so long. I tried to be a stripper. I mean, people was like, oh, you have a stripper's body. I'm like, well, let me try. I love to dance. Like, let me get the bag. But it made me so uncomfortable when I would tell people, no, do not touch me here. Don't touch me there. And they wouldn't listen. And for me, it was too much of a trigger for past trauma that I was like, all right, this particular, as much as I would love to, man, especially watching P-Valley, every time, like, man, I want to be a stripper so bad.
I know, like, I feel like I missed my moment. I should have
kept But I just know that those boundaries, like, if I continued, I would turn off a block where I would disregard my boundaries because I'd be that uncomfortable. So I just stay away from things that I know that I couldn't handle or wouldn't want to handle, and then tell people off.
Love it. That's so good to know that you know your boundaries like that, because I think a lot of times, especially when we're young and energetic and excited for this industry and jumping in, you think you can handle it all, or you should do it all, or you should dabble and try everything, and you really don't have to follow a certain path and do every role in sex work to find your, where you're going to be at. If you like doing camming, or if you love doing stripping, you don't have to do the other things that kind of take you out of your head, like you said, and make you put a fuck up just to get through it.
I think that comes with like maturity though, because there's definitely some things that I've done on cam that I knew I was uncomfortable. My fans knew I was uncomfortable. And it was like, I just kept, literally, I remember telling myself, like, do you hear that sound going off? Like, you're making so much money, like, just bear through it. Like, just keep going. Like, the money is coming. And then I felt so, not necessarily dirty, but I just felt like, wow, that's not me. But it took me a long time to know that I didn't have to do what was trending to be successful. And but it took me some time though. If I wish I would have kind of learned that a little bit earlier. But never late than never. So
Yeah, that's how you learn. Anyone else, like, yes, Rena.
I definitely have regrets. My boundaries were pushed a lot, as we were saying, like when you're younger, you think you have to reveal everything, do things you don't want to do. And like I was not careful about what kind of information, about myself I told people. And look, it's not a secret what I do. Everyone that in my life that needs to know, like knows. But at the same time, I feel like I'm way more cautious now about like boundaries. Like I don't really, I'm more closed off. Like I'm more of a homebody now. I do have very few friends, and I have my husband, and I feel really lucky, but I'm very, very like cautious of like who I tell and what, because if I don't know you, the experiences I've had, like if I don't know you, I don't feel comfortable revealing stuff. And it's the same with camming or OnlyFans or whatever. I'm a lot more careful of like what I want to reveal and what I don't. Like for me, I don't like to talk about my personal life. If someone on cam starts to say, "Where are you from?" Like I no. Like
Yeah.
you can watch me like, open my legs and do all kinds of kinky shit, but like if it's personal sensitive information that could reveal information about myself outside of the industry or whatever, like I shut that off like really quick. And I think that I learned that as I got older. Now I'm like, no, I'm not telling you shit. But again, it's not a secret what I do. Like it's everywhere. And I feel like you can't really, if you're doing this, you need to be prepared that everyone will find out, even if you're not famous. They will find out. And you got to be ready for that.
That's so true. Yeah, Siri or Charlie, did you have any conversations about boundary maintaining with friends or family, even about asking certain things or not asking certain things?
Yeah, for me, the biggest boundaries I have, I don't have a ton around like as far as what I'm comfortable with personal friends asking me about work stuff. I mean, I'm very close to most of them. And I mean, honestly, even when I have like people who are just acquaintance friends, like they usually already know what I do because I met them through a friend who already knows. And so there's not really a conversation to be had about it for the most part. But I do have some pretty well established boundaries with family, like especially like parents, because there's been rough patches in the past there about like people's feelings about what I do for work. And now, I started in this business 10 years ago and I just turned 34 last week. So I'm definitely at a point with familial relationships where it's just understood, like, even if you don't love what I do, I'm not going to stop doing it just because it's not your choice. Like, so the boundaries that I have there are really like, I'm comfortable sharing as much as you want to know.
Yeah.
But I don't expect you to ask me. Like it's don't ask, don't tell is the wrong way to put it, because
right.
But it's coming, it's more of just like, especially for certain family members, it's like they don't really want to know details of my life. Like I find that I'm pretty lucky, I should say, like with like family stuff, like I'm pretty well accepted by them. It could be far worse. A lot of people deal with far worse.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a nice place to be, to just have it be like, look, like my family loves asking me about Twitch streaming now, because that's like a safe.
That's where they can go.
I do that they feel it's like a comfort zone that they can.
I love it. I felt that collective sigh of the conservative family right behind me, because my family too. Like if there's some other stuff that I'm doing that they can talk about, oh okay, yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of nice. That's kind of what I do. Is I look for things that I know won't like give them like a really insane visual or something about what the hell my job looks like, and I'll be like, yeah, I do this thing where I play video games and people watch me. Like,
love it. Hey, but you do, and you do it great.
Exactly.
Charlie, do you have any unique experiences with how you maintain your boundaries with outside folks?
Well, I was gonna say to the previous question that I do feel really lucky that I didn't start like streaming or like camming until I was like 24, 25. and I already had a good hunk of at least a handful of years in the industry where I knew like we do not like doing this, or like you'll never catch me doing that. And of course, throughout the years, maybe some of those things change, but it's only in getting to know yourself better. So I'm glad I didn't start. And now you're always like, what if I had started sooner? You know what I mean? So there's always that thing. But in terms of like maturity or being decisive in like how you will perform or whatever, like I feel lucky in that aspect, even though I did spend so many years hiding what I did, or always having a cover story like, oh, I'm at this diner and they're like, oh yeah, how much are you there? I'm like, sad. But the original question about maintaining the boundaries between non-industry people, like I said previously, I have fewer non-industry relationships, but they are always closer. So I feel like you either know of me or you like know me. So if you know of me, like don't text me, don't call me. You might know of 3 different ways to refer to me. Just cease, just don't. But if we are good friends, like you know that I am very comfortable with my work. It is, like I said, there's the persona with the line of like where the personality blends. And I think I enjoy, and my friends and partners enjoy seeing like, where the fire underneath of my butt, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that makes sense. Like you would do that, or like, you know what I mean? Or like, I'll tell a story like, today at work, I had, this client, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, you won. So I feel like maybe I'm a little looser with those boundaries, or a little less concerned when it comes to like my really, really close non-industry friends. Whereas with my industry friends, I feel like I said, I have more, but it's more closely watched in terms of like what's expressed. And that whole sort of thing. Just because like we all be on our own pages. There's similar books, but we're here to support
like a little bit of air of competition, even though there is support. It's still like a little bit of a competitive aspect of like not showing all your cards.
Right. It's like, I support you, but also I was trying to do that. Or like, people can get catty, and it's like, you don't always know if someone's gonna like be genuinely appreciative of your arrival, or if it's just at face value, so. And then when you figure it out, it's clear as day, right?
Oh yeah. That's so true. And by then it's a little too late, but you learn.
Or you're like bestie for life.
To add something really quick for anyone that's watching or listening, with boundaries, I just want to say that it's very important to always stick to what you feel in your heart, and never to let anyone or any circumstances or any trends or the internet or just anything around you kind of persuade you into doing something that you're not necessarily comfortable with or understand in the beginning. That goes with, if you want to keep your identity safe, feel free to do that. Like you don't have to eventually come out and tell everyone who you are or what you do if you don't feel comfortable with that. I think because I know there's so many young theys, thems, non-binaries, she, hers, everyone that are joining the industry at such young ages, that there is no guidance when you're that young. And it's unfortunate, but it's very much so like a predatory age, because you're so new to it. You don't know right from wrong. And boundaries is just as important as safety. I think they kind of go hand in hand. So I just wanted to mention that, so that way whoever is listening or watching can understand that. Listen to your gut. Your instinct will never fail you wrong.
You're so right. That's so beautiful that you said that. Even when you're not young and you're just new to this industry and you think I have to do whatever it takes to gain those numbers, to gain popularity, you learn later on that that's not the case. Really having a healthy mindset and mental health in this game is what will lead to longevity in the career and lead to success. But with that said, who are the most valuable non-industry relationships you have? Like, who would be your go-to person? Like, if you want to share something incredible and exciting, or who you need to go to when you need to cry and vent about how terrible this is. Like, for me, myself, it would probably be, honest to God, my child. They're a teenager now, and they kind of are like a defender of sex work when they see things on TV being done in a messed up way. They're like, that's not fair. All they were doing was escorting and doing sex work, making money. And I was like, yeah, you get it. You get it. When they see some like person getting arrested on CSI. But like, I feel like just the fact that they like really understand all of the beauty that we have to offer the world as far as like gender understanding, sexuality understanding, loving and honoring different body types and figures and people's different abilities. I think that's been really a wonderful thing for me as a mom to be able to give to my kid, where outside society would just make it seem like, oh, we're just like terrible, dirty, disgusting sluts that just want to turn people out. So that would be mine. What's everyone else's?
Oh, I'll go. So mine is definitely my partner. It's he now is sort of in the industry with me.
Yes,
We
I
do
saw
content
that.
together. Yeah. But we met when I was still briefly on my retirement hiatus. So I still consider him primarily a civilian. So that's for me is a really good solid like relationship that and he completely understands. Like, he will listen to me like bitch about whorephobia and stuff all day long, and is insanely supportive and really knowledgeable now, because like he does his research, like he pays attention to what's going on. As well as I have some very close civilian friends who live in town. One of them is my friend Rachel, who used to like co-host my podcast back when I was doing my podcast.
Her, right?
What was that?
I feel like I met her in the podcast.
You did, yeah, because you came on the podcast. So like, Rachel's fantastic. It's funny because she like, just from doing that, she like knows so much about the industry. So she'll like ask me like very detailed questions about like, how's this thing going? And I'm like, oh, hey, you remember that? That's
yeah.
So I've got some good, like a nice support network. It's excellent.
That's great. Anyone else?
I'll go. Mine's definitely my husband. He has never been in the industry, never will. He will never be in a video with me. Like, that's his boundary. I respect that. He's very, very supportive. I didn't tell him in the beginning when we first started kind of hooking up. Like, I didn't tell him for a couple of weeks. Like, I just wanted to see like how, like without that, because in the past it kind of backfired. But now he knows everything about my experience in the industry. I think I've definitely educated him. He's always been very pro sex workers. And obviously that's great, because I wouldn't be with anyone who, it's one thing being ignorant, but and wanting to know more. But if you're just like, if you have a judgment and you're overly controlling and possessive, it won't work. Because I was already kind of like, I never officially retired, but I just wanted to go like branch into like a different part of the industry. And I feel like I just tell him everything. Whenever I have a session on cam, I tell him everything. I've told him about my experience doing porn. And while he doesn't want to go and watch me get fucked by someone that's not him necessarily, he's always been really understanding about it. And it's actually been a lot of fun to like kind of educate him on my job. And our job is not boring. So
no, it's not at all. That's really great that you are both you and Siri have someone that you can share that with, and there's not judgment, it's acceptance and support. That's
yeah, so that's definitely my go-to for sure.
And yes, Charlie.
I was gonna say my strongest support is probably also my primary partner. We've been together for over 3 years, and pretty much when I met them, I was like, look, this is what I do. If you're gonna be uncomfortable with it, I'm literally not gonna see you. Like, pretty much laid it all out on the table. And at first, I realized that I did overwhelm them with information, but it was also because I realized that they were, again, undereducated, but curious. And now to see like how supportive they are of like not only me, but like the industry in general, I'm like gonna cry because they're so sweet. Like, it's so precious to see like them going from like knowing nothing to like standing up for us.
Yeah.
And like just the conversations we can have now, whereas before it was just like me talking at their face. And being like, here's information, like this is a little bit more about this thing or this, like whether it be like the actual work or the stigmas we face outside of it or politically this, like all of it. But they do work with me now, and so that's like really cute and really exciting. And I say now like as if it's a new thing, but it's not a new thing. It's kind of like a seasonal thing, right? It's on their terms. So when they want to do it, I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then when they want to take a break, I'm respectful. So we do a lot more like appointment based stuff now versus just like arriving on cam kind of thing. Just because of their boundaries, and it does give them more of like an understanding of like this is a lot of emotional labor, and you're like, yeah, it's tiring.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it all the time. So we've switched to a lot more like filming rather than one-on-one like cam to cam situations. And I just really enjoy the aspect of like this is the one and only human with a penis that you will see me with. So you're welcome. You're lucky.
Right?
And that's it. Bottom line, right? Unless we're punching or kicking or but nothing's getting near me, right? So I do like really enjoy that aspect. And like I said, it's just really precious that like I can tell them everything. I have learned that there are a few things that I do that they don't want like all the juicy details on, but they know what I do and they respect what I do. And I'm like, I'll tell you everything. And they're like, okay, but you like don't have to tell me about this, even though I know you do it. And I'm like, valid. I respect you for speaking up and saying that you. And again, they don't care what I do. Like they're like, I care about your safety, and that's it. But really, this detail in particular is not my favorite. So not saying I can't do it, but they don't want the nitty gritty. And again, I respect that because I do like to share a lot. So, and they know like a lot of my regulars, and my regulars know them. And they like have their own relationship and certain like cucky voyeur aspects, whatever. So it's
hilarious.
It's really cute.
I love it. Oh my God, that's so cute.
It makes my heart like super warm. Like I said, I was gonna cry a second ago. I'm like, they're so supportive of us. It's so sweet.
That's really touching. I'm loving this. And then Miss Sasha.
Yeah. So I have two. I have my best friend since like middle school, like ride or die. Her nickname is Sabrina Smith. It's her rapper name. I gave it to her a long time ago. But she is a true advocate. Like there are some things about like our industry that I don't know, and she'll text me and be like, girl, how are you feeling about this? And I'm like, wait, what is this? She was like, you don't know, like this just popped off. And I'm like, well, damn, let me research. How you know before I know? And I'm the one that's in the industry. So she's very, very supportive in every way possible. And she is someone that I know that advocates for my rights as a woman, as a Black woman, as a sex worker, just all the way out, and has always been and is a great friend. And then the second person that I have, I don't usually talk about publicly, but what I will say is that they have, oh my God, now I'm about to get emotional. They have been in my life for 11 years going on, and they are the one person that I know without a doubt has my back 1,000,000%. This person would have my back before my own mom, before my own sisters, like before anyone else. Like this person has always been there time and time again. They advocate for sex worker rights. They advocate for just human rights. This is someone that maybe one day, I mean, I'm sure there's people that probably already know, like if you watch me, I play with my hands a lot. I am always there's always background noise when I'm on cam, so it's kind of like if you are observant, people kind of know. Sometimes I'll slip up and say things where I'm like, ah damn, well whatever, like if you know you know, I don't really care. But they are definitely probably like, when I know it's cliche to say, oh like I take a bullet for someone, but like I really would.
Yeah, if you really mean it, that means something.
Yeah.
That's lovely. I'm so glad that you guys, you ladies, there's no guys here, you lovely ladies were able to share your time with me this morning, and with all of us share this information about, your lives and how you maintain your career and your boundaries and your relationships with all of these lovely outside people. I think a lot of times we get into the industry and we think that's it. Like I've left my past behind, my outside life, like I'm cut off. It's all porn, it's all sex work, it's all adult. And that's very isolating. So it's really great to hear these really like enriching stories of like support and love, and people coming from one side of understanding to now the other, and some are even performers, and that just shows the power of us as individuals. And yeah, thank you. If there's any closing things you want to say, or where people can reach out to you, see you online, go ahead and make that rounds. We can go, whoever wants to go first.
I'll go. You don't owe anybody anything. You don't. I get it all the time, like, when are you shooting next? Never. If that's what I want, then never. You don't owe anybody anything. That is what I will say. Thank you.
I guess I'll go. Just be true to yourself. Do what makes you feel comfortable. Do what makes you happy. Never feel like you have to fit in to be accepted. And also do know you do not have to be famous or have 500,000 followers to be successful in this industry. I am a prime example of that. I am far from famous and I do not have 500,000 followers. But if you work hard and you treat this like a career and you treat this seriously, then you can be successful in your own way, because success is measured by the individual. And communicate.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
Love it. Love it. Siri or Charlie, any last goodbyes?
Yeah, I will just say, I think being in the industry the stigma can be hard. The challenges that it adds to some interpersonal relationships can be hard, but especially for someone who's like newer to the industry, there's for all of us, there's going to be a time in the beginning, and it can also just be like an ongoing thing for your whole career, that like, boundaries should always be a conversation that you have, but it can also be an ever-present evolving conversation. And I think more important than anything is to just be honest with yourself about where you feel your boundaries are. If you're in a partnership, a romantic relationship, or a poly relationship of some sort, like, be honest with your partner about boundaries as well, and keep that conversation open. And I don't know if it got mentioned in the beginning, but I mean, I've found Pineapple Support to be a fantastic resource. They helped me find a fantastic therapist.
Yeah.
That they're really hard to find in Kentucky. There's a shortage of mental health professionals here. And I was able to find someone who's poly, kink, and sex worker friendly.
God. That's like a unicorn out there.
Like jackpot. Yeah. So
that's a unicorn out there. or just in general. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because you're right. Pineapple Support is a really great resource for anybody. They even have group Zoom sessions if you don't want to do a one-on-one and you just want to drop in. So thank you for mentioning that, Siri.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yes, we will close out with any remarks from Charlie. You want to say?
I was just gonna say that I'm really grateful and thankful that I was able to be on this panel with so many lovely people. And you know, to anyone who's new to the industry or is interested, don't be blinded by like the smoke and mirrors that is marketing on social media, whatever. Like what Sasha was saying, like you can be successful and really not have a social media presence, or like, and not be popular. Like you can still secure the bag and be fulfilled and thriving in whatever way makes you possible. Like if you're like, well, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, relax. You'll figure out like where that balance is for you. And also in terms of like having relationships, like if you are expressing that you're interested in these things or you're starting or whatever, and people are seeming to, I don't know, maybe drop like flies around you or start to get really nasty, like maybe it's a good thing. You might be sad about it, but like if they can't hang, they can't hang. You know what I mean? Like we all need good bubbles around us. And I think that for the better part of things, this industry is like such a lovely bubble. And I'm so blessed to be here for, it'll be a decade soon. Oh my God. I'm like, here we go. But yeah, so I'm happy to be here.
And I am so happy to have you all. Thank you again for making time this morning to be here and share your stories. Everyone, have a good rest of your day. Thank you for joining us too, all of our attendees. And yeah, you can see this on our YouTube channel later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.